Last month, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, announced that it had given approval to the Babalola University, Ado-Ekiti, to commence production of the ABUAD Herbal Virucidine liquid, with effect from December 16, 2021. According to news reports, the ABUAD Herbal Virucidine liquid is an immune booster and antioxidant for coronavirus and other viral infections, which can also be used as an anti-inflammatory agent. The university said the product had been conscientiously produced and packaged in 100 milliliter bottles. However, since approval was given for the production of the herbal drug, there has been radio silence from NAFDAC and the university on the clinical trials conducted on the drug and the number of persons involved in the trials. Even more puzzling is the fact that Chief Afe Babalola, a respected lawyer, senior advocate of Nigeria and founder of the university, has assumed the mandate of keeping the public abreast on the efficacy of the drug. Just last week, Babalola said his school's herbal drug had treated 19 COVID-19 patients, and the number of those being healed by the drug was increasing by the day. While joining us now in the studio to tell us how her agency granted approval for the production of this drug and what it's doing to streamline the protocols and communication on release of similar drugs is Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, Director General of the National Agency for Food, Drug and Administration and Control, NAFDAC. Welcome to the show, Professor Adeyeye. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
Good morning, Prof.
Thank you. Good morning.
Well, I don't know. I think you should just respond to some of the issues raised by Tundun to start with. Why the radio silence? And then what is special about this particular herbal drug from Afe Babalola University, Ado-Ekiti, considering the fact that in July 2021, you had expressed concern that NAFDAC had not approved any herbal medicine and that people should be careful about people going about. And then December, we heard about this drug from ABUAD, as the university is known. So why the radio license? We would have expected that NAFDAC will be promoting it heavily. Where are we?
Thank you so much. You know, God has really blessed us in this country with great biodiversity, plants, herbal medicines. However, we have been sitting on this pot of gold for decades because a lot of research has not been done. In terms of the ABUAD Virucidine, we got an application from ABUAD in May of last year, 2021. What NAFDAC does is to do a listing approval first. A listing approval is about safety of the medicine, not efficacy. Meaning that if a patient takes the medicine, there will not be toxicity to jeopardize the life of the patient. So we got the application May of last year, and we sent what is called compliance directive, meaning what you should do and should not do. And one of the things that we usually pay attention to for herbal medicines is claim. If I claim that this can cure something, at this listing stage, you cannot do that. So what we did was to say, remove coronavirus treatment or cure from the label. Does that mean it may not be active against coronavirus? No. It is that you cannot claim until the next stage, which is the efficacy. I'm coming to that. So they removed it from the label and resubmitted. And then there were a few other things that we said, please correct this and correct that. You can only put effective as immune booster and antioxidants. We also said that they should remove anti-inflammatory from there. And that was, they complied actually, because they made all the corrections. And there were two other compliance directives, and in December, we then approved. And our approval is not just 2-3 people. It is the whole agency, technical directorates that come together and critique that, oh, we left this out, we left that out. So even at that point, they may still be, they may not be approved, but for this one, we approved with the understanding that all our corrections, they will comply with it.
Right, so you talked about how specific you have the labeling reflect exactly what it does, and you shouldn't, over-egg the pie, as it were. But you have Chief Afe Babalola, a senior advocate of Nigeria, not a medical professional, touting this Virucidine as a cure for COVID-19, initially curing 19 patients and the number increasing every day, which is what he said. Do you have any control and monitoring over what people claim? Because beyond labeling, there's the general perception in the public. What control does NAFDAC have over that?
That's a very good question, and that is where the efficacy stage comes in. Once we've approved the listing, what we did in December was approve that it is safe to use. Then the efficacy study comes later, but it depends on whether the applicant has money to do clinical trials. When you are doing drug development, there are 4 phases, actually maybe 5 phases. You have the preclinical, where you use cells, animals, that's preclinical. Then you have the 3 phases in the clinical trial, phases 1, 2, and 3. And then we have the post-marketing phase, which is what we have now for COVID-19 vaccine, phase 4. That is post-marketing, once it's already being used by so many people. So for herbal medicine, knowing that many of our herbal products have been used by our ancestors for so many decades or centuries, we collapse phases 1 and 2 together, so that instead of going through several phases, they go to phase 2. And that is the efficacy. Anybody that is trying to do clinical trial in Nigeria, meaning using human beings, must submit an application to NAFDAC and to NREC. NREC is the National Ethics Committee, which is domiciled at the Ministry of Health. Why is this so important? Because we want to be sure that first, the ethics are complied with. It is an international Helsinki Accord that all subjects that are going through clinical trials must be protected. So NREC takes care of ethics. We take care, NAFDAC takes care of the scientific approach to the clinical trial. So you cannot claim efficacy until you have gone through human trials. And the fact that, people get better, I cannot dispute that, because a lot of our medicines work on human beings. However, we are a scientific organization, and we are part of a global scientific regulatory bodies. Therefore, people have to follow the due process. They have to do due diligence. For example, Professor Iwo is going through a clinical trial of a herbal product that he developed in his own company. He applied to NAFDAC, and we reviewed the applications to make sure that if this is successful, it is so well designed that nobody can dispute that that the drug is efficacious. There are 2 or 3 others that are going on right now, clinical trials, submitted to NREC and NAFDAC. But we have not gotten any clinical trial protocol or application yet for this particular product.
So the shocking part is you've not gotten any clinical trial, application. Clinical trial has not been done. Then somebody goes to make a claim that it has cured. So that's the part I want to happen. Because, so I remember back in my radio days, when tradomedicals will come,
Yeah.
NAFDAC used to harp on us that they should not make a claim that we cure this. So why is it that somebody made a claim about a drug that has not gone through clinical trials and there's been no rebuttal, it's just radio silence, like Dr. Bati said?
Well, I've just defined what clinical trial is.
Yeah.
For phase 1, you can use up to like 50 people. For phase 2, up to maybe 200. For phase 3, thousands. But we know that for traditional medicines, herbal medicines, we don't need to use 2,000, 3,000 or 20,000 rather, but we can use as many as possible. We actually have modified the approach by collapsing phases 1 and 2, knowing that people have been using this for ages. So the fact that people go out and claim, it has been happening since the beginning of COVID, the pandemic. It is that we have to learn to do things stepwise. Nigeria will get the glory for it. I'm a proponent of herbal medicines. I was raised up on herbal medicines. I developed a herbal, or did research on a herbal product for sickle cell just before I got to NAFDAC. That was my last set of research that I gave to my students. This product works. This sickle cell medicine works. However, I cannot claim on the air until I publish something that we used 90 patients and we did 90% confidence interval statistics that beyond doubt, this works. But I know that that thing works because I have a niece that is a sickler, and that helped her. But that is just one person, that is 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. But when we are talking of design clinical trial, talking of, again, what is called the number N, you know, it has to be a significant number. That when it comes to open, for example, WHO has heard about what we are talking about now, and they were asking, oh, what is the study? You know, they expect us to show that, yeah, a clinical trial protocol was submitted, and this is where they are. Out of X number of patients or subjects, they got this efficacy. That is what I'm yearning to do as a NAFDAC DG. And I started with, God has blessed us with a lot of biodiversity. Unfortunately, many of our own forefathers died with these gems of herbal medicines that they knew. But now, what NAFDAC did, actually, 2019, was to start the Herbal Medicine Product Committee, where we brought the herbalists and the researchers together. Because there's a gulf between them. They don't trust each other. Oh, they will steal my information and whatnot. And we were very successful to bring the two. They said, unless NAFDAC midwives the agreement that they will not work with researchers. And we set up a confidentiality agreement that, okay, you sign, and then we will midwife. It were just witness. We are not part of the agreement, just witness. Why? So that the gems that our forefathers had will not die with their offspring, like my own grandfather's gems died, because my own cousin, we had this formulary for my grandfather. Before I went to the US, he had it, and decades later I came back. I said, brother, where is the exercise book? Oh, I've burnt it.
Oh, no.
You burnt what?
Oh, no.
I'm a Christian now.
Oh,
I said,
no.
what did you say? I was coming back home to build on it. In that formulary, there's what is called male boil. female boy. Male boy is malignant cancer. Female boy is non-malignant, benign cancer. They had formulas for it. In that exercise book, I saw them. But it's burnt. So that's why we are bringing these two groups together, so that the researchers can bring the scientific approach to it. ABUAD has done some science on this Virucidine, but they have not gone the way they are supposed to go in terms of application for clinical trial. Going through NREC, going through NAFDAC. Why is this so important? Because we want to protect our people. We want to protect the subjects. ABUAD is one of the best clinical environment in the country, because I was there, I saw it, but we've got to do things the way other countries or other regulatory agencies or countries do this, which means follow the protocol step by step, and Nigeria will get the glory for it.
Well, Prof, let's talk about vaccines.
Yes.
It's NAFDAC that gives regulatory approvals. And so far, I think NAFDAC has approved up to about 5. AstraZeneca, Pfizer-BioNTech, J&J, Moderna. Yes. But I was a bit worried when NAFDAC approved Sputnik 5.
Yes.
Sputnik 5 has not received the approval of either the WHO or the European Medicines Agency. But NAFDAC, approved it for use in Nigeria. And that was a bit worrisome. Why? And then the second issue about these expired vaccines. Yes. How did that escape the attention of NAFDAC? Because NAFDAC, I mean, the last time you were on this program, you talked about looking at the time and all of that. And then we were told, millions of, vaccine doses had to be destroyed. Why?
Thank you so much. Sputnik. At the beginning of this pandemic, we wrote a guideline for preparedness for the incoming vaccines. And we have 3 means of approval. We can approve a vaccine if WHO has given emergency use listing approval to the vaccine. We can approve if a partner, regulatory agency that is well-known, much developed, has already approved. We can give approval once we also do our own in-house, whether it's EUL, WHO, or from a stringent regulatory authority. We have to do our own examination of the dossier. Then the third one is a manufacturer, an applicant can submit directly, which is what Sputnik did. I think we started the process with them February or March of last year, and we didn't finish until September, thereabout. It took about 6-7 months for the ones that the WHO approved, because they've already done a lot of work before they came to that point. We examined, reviewed for about 15 working days, and it is multi-directorate review panel in NAFDAC. And, okay, WHO said yes, 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 but we need to take care of this, because the vaccine, most of the vaccines were not done in our population. The fact that you had no side effects somewhere doesn't mean you will not have side effects. So we took care of things that may be peculiar to us. So it is shorter for EUL listed. It is also shorter if another regulatory agency like FDA, EMA have already approved. It takes about 2-3 weeks, 1 month maximum from other agencies, about 2 weeks for WHO, and about 6-7 months for Sputnik, because we kept going back and forth. You go to do this, you have to do that. And we gave even a conditional approval. A conditional approval that, okay, we will allow you, or we will approve this, but we want to see it in a limited population first, to ensure that the dose that is indicated on the label is right for our people. So there is nothing, it's one of our means of approval, meaning direct approval, but it has not been used by anybody because we also come together, the Ministry of Health and Primary Health, SCDC, we come together and said which are the ones that we should be looking at, and there were 4 or 5, including what you have just mentioned, AstraZeneca, J&J, Moderna, that we listed as the ones that are priority to us or that we prefer to use. So that is about Sputnik. About the expired vaccines. When all other countries were getting vaccines, we didn't get vaccine. I was so much pressured. Prof, why is Nigeria not getting vaccine? I said, until they give us the dossier. Dossier is the package, the application package. Until we get the dossier, we cannot review. There was inequity in information sharing. And I've tabled that at a very global meeting about 3 months ago. We didn't have the dossier at the beginning, and no African country or agency had the dossier. At a point, they said, oh, Africa can use one dossier. I said, are you kidding me? Are you seriously kidding me? One dossier for 54 countries? I shut them down. Then they said, okay, but good enough. I started knocking on doors. I said, AstraZeneca, people have been using it because we were all we were just looking, we were observers, African countries, when others were getting vaccines. So AstraZeneca is being used. Can we get it? We didn't have a representative in Nigeria. So I was directed and called Nairobi, Kenya, the African representative. We need vaccine. And then they linked me up with Serum Institute of India. That was how we were able to get our first vaccine, AstraZeneca, directly. That was almost the same week when the policy came that for African countries, we have to go through WHO. We signed confidentiality agreement to get a link to access WHO-approved dossiers of vaccines. So it is not just NAFDAC, it's also primary health that is in it. For example, when application import permit is being sought, it is primary health that is the market authorization holder. So when we started getting the vaccines and we ran out of the first one, the first batch, the AstraZeneca, that's the first rollout. Primary health, of course, was always in touch with COVAX. Unfortunately, most countries subscribe to more than enough vaccines that they need. I'm talking of developed countries. So the ones that they had that has not expired, they started sending it to us, to Africa, But if the inflow is greater than the outflow, meaning the uptake, how fast people get vaccinated, then there will be a problem with the things that are coming in. Unfortunately, they were close to expiration, about 6 weeks to expiration. And I didn't have any problem with that if the uptake is fast enough to take it. But it wasn't fast enough, and that was primary health wisdom that they used. So it wasn't like NAFDAC knowingly brought something in or primary health knowingly brought it. It is that we want to get our people vaccinated, even with the shorter period, and thought that we could consume it, but we couldn't consume it. And it's not just that. Once we get the vaccines in NAFDAC, we have to do the test. Whether it is expiring in 6 months or expiring in 1 month or whatever, we have to do the test. Because we want to be sure that whatever is going into the arm It's very safe. So that is the reason for why we have to destroy the ones that we did.
Well, I'm actually so excited by this project where you talked about what you're midwifing with the traditional medicines and the researchers, because Ayurvedic medicine is $1 billion industry. I don't see why we can't, take over that market,
Exactly.
So that's really great. But that's just an aside. I just had to say that.
Thank you.
How do you maintain this balance? Because we've talked today just about the detail that goes into your work that you do to protect the public. You have to really scrutinize everything, the product, the packaging, even the premises, such that sometimes it does appear to people that the NAFDAC process is so onerous and makes doing business difficult. How do you maintain that balance in, creating an enabling environment for Nigerian entrepreneurs and protecting the public?
That's a very, very good question. When God takes you through a path, you may not understand when you are going through that path. Because as a professor, I was doing clinical trials in Nigeria. I will come from the US to do clinical trials here. And there was an FDA-approved protocol I had a virtual company in the US. As a professor, you can also have a company on the side because the university may benefit. But in any case, I came in 2010 with my protocol to NAFDAC. For FDA, it took 3 months to approve for me to come to Nigeria to do the study. It took 3.5 years here. Oh. And at a point, I wanted to give up. Because at that point, NAFDAC and NREC were not talking. And I didn't know. So I tell people that God allowed me to go through that difficult period so that I will know what I'm going to do in the future. So in short, we have revised our guidances, access to information. That is part of our own audit. We have to do self-audit. We are going through WHO audit now to get maturity level 3. We have to be transparent. This Herbal Medicine Product Committee, we have been bringing them through a series of meetings together. That is part of creating enabling environment. For herbal practitioner, I ask one of the directors, please draw a simple floor plan. Because many of our herbal practitioners are not rich. They don't have money. But draw a simple plan so that there will be flow from one end to the other so that there will not be contamination. There will be hygienic environment and whatnot. That is the assistance that we are giving to herbal medicine product practitioners. So things are actually going very well. For example, this marriage that NAFDAC is trying to foster, before they weren't talking, now they are talking. We have 9 pairs of herbal practitioners and researchers submitting proposal. The herbal practitioner, of course, doesn't know how to do proposals, but the researchers know. And these are, these were submitted to CBN with the emphasis that we need to encourage, especially the clinical trial part of it. It is costly. It is very costly. If there is going to be successes in clinical trials, ABUAD will be one of the institutions that will do that if they follow the protocol. NIPRID, National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research in Abuja, their mandate was to work on natural product and so on. They can also do that. We don't do clinical trials. We just approve. We make sure that everybody is sticking with the guidelines, international best practices.
Okay. Well, Prof, we would like to thank you very much for joining us and for shedding light on many of these issues. Thank you very much indeed.